Hello and welcome. So I do want to talk about pain, and if you're disabled, then probably you will be taking meds or something for some pain somewhere in your body. And I don't know if you're like me, but it is chronic and long term. Certainly can't remember how long I've been on this medication, but they're not doing me any good, physically, and they barely touch the pain itself, which most professionals, like physiotherapists and things like that, they all say, "Oh, it's in your head. You know, sort your body out. You get your head right. You'll be all right. Your pain is all in your head." Yeah, right. That's why when I move my back, it hurts my back, not my head. Certainly I get headaches and things like that, but that's all probably due to something else, which is having to deal with all the rubbish going on at the moment. So, just a very interesting little thing that I saw, which you may be interested in hearing. It's an audio file, which was part of The Guardian. It's an audio file, it's quite long, but I'll play it and you can have a listen, see what you think.
Hi, this is Guardian Australia Reads. I'm Jane Lee. Every week we ask Guardian Australia's editors what their favourite articles are, and then we read them aloud for you. Chronic pain is a condition suffered by many people, which is often difficult to diagnose or treat. Gabrielle Jackson is Associate Editor of Audio and Visual at Guardian Australia. Gabs, can you tell me why you chose this story?
I chose this article because it was the lead feature in a series I commissioned about chronic pain and long COVID. The series was called The Pain That Can't Be Seen. And I commissioned it because, well, very selfishly, I suffer from chronic pain and I've written a book about it. And what I've discovered is that it is really, really woefully misunderstood in both medicine and wider society. And there's been some really great developments in understanding of how chronic pain works. And long COVID has many similarities to lots of chronic pain syndromes. And so it's providing a incredible opportunity for science to study these conditions and for people to understand them more, and most importantly for medical practitioners to catch up with where the science is. And so we got together some of the best pain scientists in the world to talk to us for this article, and people wrote to tell me that for the first time in their life they understand their chronic pain after 20 or 30 years of suffering. So that made me feel good.
Let's hear it. This is Sufferers of Chronic Pain Have Long Been Told It's All in Their Head. We Now Know That's Wrong by Linda Geddes.
It started with headaches and neck pain, but no sooner had Trisha Kalinowski's physiotherapist come up with a strategy to tackle these problems than another area of her body would start to hurt: her lower back, her hip, or her jaw. Kalinowski is 60 years old and is from Minneapolis in the US. She says, "The physio was chasing the pain up and down my body." Eventually, she was referred to an oral surgeon who believed the root cause of these issues was a problem with one of the joints in her jaw, so she underwent surgery to replace a thumbnail-sized disc. Unfortunately, the replacement was defective, triggering an immune reaction that resulted in the loss of several inches of jawbone. It took 13 rounds of surgery to fix the damage, the last of which was performed in 2015. She says, "The irony to all the surgeries is that I still have headaches, I still have neck pain, and nobody really knows quite what to do about it." To most people, pain is an unpleasant but short-lived sensation occurring as a result of illness or injury. Although some people may experience ongoing or chronic pain, the assumption is there must be some kind of underlying physical injury, such as a crushed nerve or an angry, inflamed joint. Increasingly, though, experts are waking up to the idea that chronic pain can occur without any obvious physical injury, or in a completely separate area of the body from the original site of tissue damage. There's also mounting evidence that seemingly very different pain conditions, chronic headaches, low back pain and jaw pain, say, may share common underlying mechanisms, and that once a person develops one chronic pain condition, they're predisposed to develop others. The COVID-19 pandemic could make this situation even worse. One of the most common symptoms reported by people with long COVID is musculoskeletal pain, and those with existing musculoskeletal pain conditions seem to be at risk of experiencing stronger pain after a serious COVID infection. Musculoskeletal pain is an issue that we must start considering as a long COVID problem, says Professor Lars Arendt Nielsen, immediate past president of the International Association for the Study of Pain, IASP, and director of the world's largest translational pain research centre at Aalborg University in Denmark. The health profession as a whole does not treat people with chronic pain well, and it is about to be hit by a tsunami of severely ill people needing help. Pain probably evolved as a means of identifying potentially harmful stimuli and withdrawing from them, as well as teaching us to avoid these things in the future. It can also help to protect injured body parts while they heal. But when it continues beyond this recovery period, it has lost this useful function. Chronic pain is a leading cause of disability, affecting about 20% of people globally, but more than 2/5 of people in some countries, including the UK, and is predicted to increase as populations age. Traditionally, doctors have divided pain into two categories: nociceptive pain, triggered by injuries such as bruises, burns, fractures, sprains, or inflammatory conditions such as arthritis, and detected by pain receptors in our skin, bones, and other tissues, and neuropathic pain triggered by damage to the nerves that carry sensory signals from these tissues to the brain and spinal cord. But a few years ago, the International Association for the Study of Pain introduced a third category: nosoplastic pain, pain arising from the altered processing of these sensory signals without any evidence of actual or threatened tissue damage. One thing that can happen is that the pain signals carried by peripheral nerves from the skin, muscles, joints, or internal organs to the spinal cord can become amplified, worsening the pain. Prolonged activation of the body's pain pathways can also lead to changes in the brain and spinal cord. According to the old way of thinking, the body's pain pathways were arranged like a telephone switchboard, with fixed sets of wires, nerves, connecting our peripheral organs and tissues to the spinal cord, and further nerves connecting the spinal cord to the brain, as well as feeding back down in the opposite direction. Professor Lars Arendt Nielsen says, the assumption was that this was a fixed, solid, stable system. But we now know that these neural networks can be reorganized when there are persistent inputs into the system and cause increased gain of the pain signal and hence generate a stronger pain. For one thing, nerves in the brain and spinal cord, the central nervous system, can become hyperexcitable, meaning that minor bumps and grazes become agonizing, and even non-painful stimuli such as brushing your hair or touching your skin can trigger pain. It is like an allergic reaction in the pain system, Arendt Nielsen says. This central sensitization can also spread. One of the features that we see in many patients with chronic pain is that they have this generalized pain hypersensitivity. They might have osteoarthritis and pain in their knee, but if you quantitatively assess the sensitivity of the pain system, they have a lower pain threshold throughout their bodies, Arendt Nielsen says. This reorganization of the pain system is the reason why management of chronic pain is difficult and traditional analgesics are not efficient, and why pain research is so important to discover new ways to modulate this pain reorganization. It may also help explain why so many people with chronic pain conditions subsequently develop more of them, more than 200 million people around the world are affected by chronic overlapping pain conditions, a cluster of painful disorders which often coexist in the same patient. Over the past 10 years, there's been the widespread recognition that pain can be a disease in and of itself, and a growing understanding that it is a multi-system illness and that there are shared mechanisms of disease across these conditions, says Kristen Veasley, co-founder and director of the US-based Chronic Pain Research Alliance. A patient like Trisha Kalinowski may start out with jaw pain, then gradually accumulate other conditions such as fibromyalgia, endometriosis, migraine, or irritable bowel syndrome as time wears on. Other related conditions include temporomandibular disorder, pain related to the jaw joints, painful bladder syndrome, vulvodynia, pain around the opening of the vagina, chronic low back pain, and tension-type headache. Daniel Claw is a professor of anesthesiology, medicine, and psychiatry at the University of Michigan, who says, in many people with conditions like low back pain, endometriosis, irritable bowel, headache, fibromyalgia, you're not going to find a problem in the area of the body where the person is experiencing pain. There's more and more evidence that these are central nervous system systemic conditions where the pain can present in different areas of the body at different points in time over that person's life. Where there is organic disease associated with endometriosis, for instance, it is now understood that the severity of the physical disease does not correspond with the severity of pain symptoms in many patients. Claw likens the experience of pain to the noise produced by an electric guitar. To make it louder, you can either strum the strings harder or turn up the amplifier. In this analogy, the strings are represented by the peripheral nerves carrying sensory information from our organs and tissues, and the amplifier by the brain and spinal cord. A patient with third-degree burns is having their strings strummed extremely hard, whereas in someone with fibromyalgia, a long-term condition that causes pain all over the body, their amplifier has been set too loud. They can have pain without the strings even having to be strummed, Claw says. Central sensitization is one way of turning up that amplifier. It can be triggered by intense, repeated, and sustained activation of the nerves that carry pain signals, as a result of a major injury or prolonged infection, say. People's innate amplifier settings can also vary. Not everyone who develops a chronic pain condition will develop more of them, but they seem to be particularly prevalent among women, and those affected also often suffer from non-pain conditions such as sleep and mood disorders and fatigue. Some of this variation between men and women may be due to immune system differences, with women also more prone to autoimmune disease. Immune cells trigger inflammation, which can trigger pain. Sex hormones such as estrogen and testosterone can further exacerbate or dull pain, depending where they are released and in what quantities. Laid on top of those basic amplifier settings are events that happen to you as you go through life. Chronic pain is more common among people who experience lots of surgery as children or emotional or physical abuse. There is also a strong link between chronic pain and depression. Of course, living with chronic pain can be depressing, but depression can also amplify pain processing in and of itself. This is not the same thing as suggesting that someone's mental attitude can affect their pain. Rather, people often don't realize that the brain pathways that drive depression are intrinsically linked to the ones that drive chronic pain, says Dr. Kirsty Bannister, a senior lecturer at King's College London, who researches these pain pathways. When pain signals arrive in the brain, they are transmitted to areas that allow us to locate and categorize that pain, as well as to areas that process emotions. These brain areas then send signals back down the spinal cord, which, in health, causes those original pain signals to be dampened. This is why your thumb begins to stop hurting several minutes after you've bashed it with a hammer. But in people with a history of depression or childhood trauma, those emotion processing areas are often wired differently, which can alter the type of signals they send. As a result, their pain pathways carry on being activated. Bannister says, because our life experiences are not equal, it means that previous issues such as fear, hopelessness, or helplessness may escalate your pain to a very different intensity compared to mine. That's not to say that everyone with chronic pain is affected by this problem of nosoplastic pain or central sensitization. Claw says, fibromyalgia is a poster child for it, but you see elements of fibromyalgia in other conditions, such as low back pain. Probably 40 to 50% of people with low back pain really have something a lot more like fibromyalgia than a problem in their back. And 70 to 80% of people with bladder pain syndrome really have more of a fibromyalgia phenotype, where they have pain in their bladder, but they have pain elsewhere as well. What we think happens in these post-infection, post-motor vehicle accident kind of syndromes is that everyone has this background degree of fibromyalgia-ness, and then this gets blasted open by getting COVID or being in a hospital where you sleep terribly and you're inactive for weeks or months. Whatever you were doing in your life that was sort of keeping that all at bay comes crashing down.
So there you go. I think it's been proven that this is not in the head, that your physical pain manifests as pain, and there are not many ways that you can alleviate it if it's very severe. But medication certainly long term does not really help too much, because your body gets used to it, and your body sort of, it gets used to the medication, and medication does nothing in the end, and you have to increase the amounts, which obviously can be dangerous. And for me, there isn't really any other options as far as I can see. The only way that I could do it would be morphine, and that is quite serious stuff. Morphine. I have tried I briefly tried the morphine patches, but there was some issue around crossover, and I had to go back to my old medication because the new one wasn't really doing anything. Obviously, the reason why is because it takes a while to work, being that it was a patch, like a smoking patch. You put it on your arm. There are other treatments that you can try, which have been advertised on telly. I don't know if they work. It's like a TENS machine that you put on your body and it takes away the pain. I don't know if that works, but it's allegedly works for knee pain and things like that. So it may well work quite well, but having to buy one is obviously an outlay, which obviously if it doesn't work, then you spend that money. Right, I hope that was useful for you. Please don't forget to like and share, and if you're not subscribed, then please do that, because it does help. There are many videos on my channel that you can watch, and of course it would help me out if you did, because at the moment numbers of views have gone down considerably, and obviously there's not much point in making them if nobody's going to watch the videos. So please help me out and see if you can watch, maybe 2 or 3 of them at least. Until next time, have a good day. Bye for now.